Hello and welcome to Basement Banter on Yup Sports Radio. I'm here with Buck Anderson, Jack Shea, and myself, Jake Urich, and we're just going to start off with some introductions since this is the first time we're doing this. Jack, why don't you start?
Yep, I'm Jack Shea from Austin, Texas, and a huge college football fan. I'm not a fan of the Longhorns at all. In fact, one of my least favorite teams. But despite that, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, Texas Rangers, Dallas Mavericks, and I don't really follow hockey, but I guess I'd pull for the Stars.
Hi, this is Evan Anderson. You'll hear them call me Buck on this show. I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan, but I hang with a lot of the Detroit teams. But I'm a big Packers fan, and I've also kind of developed a thing for the Miami Heat. My favorite player, LeBron James. So we'll talk about that a little later on. Pass it off to Jake.
Like I said, I'm Jake Urich. I've lived across the country, but most recently in Charlotte, North Carolina, and now in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan, Pittsburgh Penguins fan. I do like the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Phoenix Suns, but I also have a thing for LeBron James, so I guess we'll get to that later as well. So, lastly, all three of us are students at the University of Notre Dame, and in light of some recent circumstances surrounding the football program in Manti Te'o, we'll be able to offer a unique perspective on the situation, and we'll get to that a little later. But first, we're going to start with a question about which young quarterback you would want to build your team around if you had the choice of these young guys right now. The choice is between Colin Kaepernick, Cam Newton, RG3, Andrew Luck, and Russell Wilson. So, to start off, see what we got. Want to get us going, Buck?
That I will. And I'm going to make a case for Russell Wilson here. I'm aware that Andrew Luck is a guy that pretty much any general manager in the league would have taken first overall last year, and he's a guy that has all the intangibles, and he did turn a 2-14 or 1-15 team, that escapes me at this point, into a 11-5 playoff team this year.
2-14.
2-14, first instinct. We throw some numbers at you. Russell Wilson turned in a 100 exactly quarterback rating this year. His QBR was 69.6, and that was marked up a lot over the second half of the season. Just to give you an idea for that, Manning, Brady, Kaepernick, Ryan, Rodgers, and RG3 were higher. So was Alex Smith, but
some two young guys there that you didn't
job.
pick.
That I did not. Well, one young guy.
Kaepernick.
Yeah, well, we'll get to Kaepernick. That, of course, puts him ahead of Breeze, Eli Manning, Luck, Roethlisberger, etc. Those are raw stats. But I just want to make a point about kind of down the stretch. Obviously, we all watched the playoff game this past weekend. 86.4 QBR at Atlanta. Wilson put up 97.6 in a 42-13 win over the 49ers. 99.3 at Buffalo. He tied Peyton Manning's record for rookie touchdown passes with 26. And yes, he came into a better situation, but this team was 7-9 the last two seasons in the tough NFC. And making that jump to 10-6 represents a more significant change than you really would think. It's 3 wins, but that's a difficult step. And there's an argument to be made on the other side. I'm sure you'll make it.
So let's let Jack take a stab at this here.
My thing on Russell Wilson is you throw Cam Newton into the helm of the starting quarterback with the Seattle Seahawks offense, he does just as well, if not better. And that's why I'm not picking Cam Newton. The guy I'm going to pick here is Andrew Luck, because I believe that he's far and away the most complete young quarterback in the league. He would thrive in any team's offense, and he turned around the worst team in the entire league last year into now this year they were a playoff team
with 5 times as many wins. 5 times
as many wins.
They went from 2-14 to 11-5.
Yeah, and that was teed up for you.
But it's still true. And not only this, but when you look at the off season for the Colts didn't add anyone except for anyone who gets significant playing time except Luck and Kobe Fleener, both in the draft.
Rookies.
Nice players.
Exactly, and they lost Pierre Garçon, Joseph Adai, Dallas Clark, like guys who are Jeff Saturday, guys who are like big starters, big contributors to the team. So I think there's only one place to look for the dramatic turnaround of the Colts, and it's Andrew Luck.
And I think a lot of that you put on leadership, and that's not to take anything away from that, because this team laid down and died last season when Manning was out with the neck injuries. But I'd like to kind of bring it back to Wilson for a second, unless Mr. Urich over here would like to jump in first.
Well, before you do that, I think that the guy that a lot of people have been touting as the Rookie of the Year this year, RG3, is not getting picked by any one of us. And I think that you can make a stronger case for him for sure than Wilson. And I'll do that in a second. But first, I want to highlight the defenses. Seattle's defense was fourth in yards per game, and first in points per game.
Best defense in the league, I think, probably.
49ers, those two. But like you said, it's a tough NFC. And Indy had the 26th ranked in yards and 21st in points per game. Washington 28th and 22nd in points per game, respectively. So these two other quarterbacks, not named Wilson, is dealing with a lot more because their defense is not getting them the ball back and keeping teams low-scoring games. I mean, since Seattle's only given up 15 points a game, Russell Wilson only had to score 16 to get his wins.
Let me first address Robert Griffin, and I'm a big fan. But I was quite possibly more impressed this year by Alfred Morris. 1,600 yards in his rookie year, undrafted.
Well, hey, that's true. That's true. Washington did have the highest rushing offense in the league, but RG3 contributed 815 of those yards.
Yes, he did. But the Shanahan offense is predicated on establishing a running game with the running back. And I understand that Griffin was explosive, and less so, obviously, now in light of his injury. But, well, possibly. I don't want to jump there yet. He's a resilient guy, great player. I think he's got a great future in this league. But he wasn't asked to do much this year with his arm, and I think eventually.
Neither was Russell.
No, he averaged fewer yards in the air per attempt.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did. He was throwing shorter through the air. Yes, he did.
Shorter through the air. But per pass attempt, RG3 averaged more yards than Russell Wilson.
Yes,
8.1 to 7.93.
That's true. But I'm talking about yards traveled in the air. And
it's an irrelevant stat.
It's not an irrelevant stat.
I mean, it's a relevant stat, but I mean, it largely depends on offense. I guarantee
that's a huge element of QBR. So before you say that's not an irrelevant stat, players that are asked to do more, quarterbers that are asked to do more.
Well, okay, Andrew Luck. All right, can we get back to Andrew Luck?
Luck throws it farther through the air than both of them.
Okay,
yeah.
Right.
Let me make my case first of all. You're talking about a guy in Russell Wilson who came in NC State, a 2-star recruit, a 2-sport athlete. He was, by most accounts, a better baseball player than a football player. And he was drafted, and he almost went professional in baseball. So you can argue this guy hasn't devoted the majority of his focus through the years on this sport. Then you're talking about a guy who came in at NC State and put up a 17-1 touchdown to interception ratio his freshman year. He followed that up with 31-11.
Well, I mean, come on.
He ends up at Wisconsin. He ends up at Wisconsin, and you think about the legacy this guy would have, if not for 3 late game outcomes that he had no role.
Well,
You remember Hail Mary at Michigan State.
You remember this, but we're talking about NFL potential, not about college legacy.
And I'm getting it. I'm getting it.
Yeah, we need to get there a little bit quicker because there are men like Andrew Luck that don't like to be kept waiting.
The Atlanta drive late. That was a game that he was down 20-0 in on the road at halftime and played an immaculate second half.
He made an immaculate game. But these guys.
You're talking about a guy in Luck who they limited to 9 points in the divisional game, or in the wild card game. He was 28 for 54 in that loss. He could not get the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, but the Ravens are an experienced postseason team, and you're touting Russell Wilson against the Falcons, who have barely been able to get out of the round
this year. That defense is not the same this year, and you know it.
I know they're not
and
the
you're
same.
Gonna say, tell that to
we're getting too specific here. The fact that Andrew Luck, that you bring up college, Andrew Luck was far better than Russell Wilson in college, no question. But that's not even necessary to discuss. Andrew Luck attempted 627 passes this year. Wilson only attempted 393. When you ask, which guy is depended upon more, it's clear that it's Andrew Luck.
Yeah, and I agree that.
Yeah, he got sacked more times, and he got sacked 41 times compared to only 33 for Russell Wilson, but he only lost 40 more yards. So he's taken decent sacks that are because the Colts' offensive line is not very good. And you know what? Even though his numbers are down, and he has more interceptions, it's because these defenses can sit back and they know what's coming late in the game because the Colts don't have a running game. They don't. Seattle has the luxury of Marshawn Lynch and a good offensive line and a good defense. The other teams don't know what's coming. Pete Carroll has built a good team up there, but I'm not sure that if he was on a different team, Russell Wilson would be doing the same thing. You look at this season. Seattle had the eighth rushing.
I take issue with that. The perception is that a coach has made Russell Wilson because
he hasn't made Russell Wilson. No, it's not a.
He is in no way the product of a system.
No, I agree with that.
System.
He is not. No way the product of a system.
He has adapted. He picked up a new system. When they changed offensive coordinators at NC State, he picked up a new system and going straight to Wisconsin and a new system at Seattle. And late in the year, he showed a better grasp of everything that they were trying to do there. And it paid off.
Then Andrew Luck in Indianapolis?
No.
Andrew, come on. Let's look at this for a second. Jack, I'll let you get it.
The question was, which guy do you want? You're starting a team, first pick. Which guy do you want? Russell Wilson, I could get Cam Newton to do that. I could get Colin Kaepernick to do that. Andrew Luck will be successful in whatever system he's in, on whatever team he's on.
Because he is
a successful player. He can fit any system. He is the prototype for a extremely successful NFL quarterback.
Here's the issue I take with what you're saying. You cannot compare Cam Newton and Colin Kaepernick to Russell Wilson. They are not similar
They're better
players.
than him. At least Cam Newton is better than him.
Oh, my goodness.
Cam Newton is better than him.
You would have a very difficult time providing any basis for that at all. On any statistical measure, in terms of wins, there's just no...
But again, I don't think that Russell Wilson in Carolina would have led this team to a 10-6 season. I just don't think that it would have happened. Cam Newton lost so many games at the very end, and it's because the Panthers don't have a defense. They've been injury-ridden. He doesn't have receivers, and they don't have an offensive line. They have two decent running backs, and he throws the ball to them a heck of a lot. But, he's just not in the right spot, and I think that's a lot of what happened for Russell Wilson. But for me, Andrew Luck could have went to any team, and he'd be doing okay.
You would build a team around a player that regressed in his second year, has been extremely immature over 2 seasons in the NFL, and most.
No. I would not. I already said I would pick Luck. But what I'm saying to you is that I just don't know about Cam Newton yet because I don't think he's in the right system. I don't think he has the right coach.
And we also
but that's not what we're here to argue.
Yeah, because it's too early.
Well, it's not too early.
I think it's
it's just as good as Cam Newton. What Cam Newton was
it's not
as good as this last year.
No, it's not the same because he's been an extremely efficient passer, and Newton never was. Newton racked up a lot of yards, a lot of attempts, and he ran the ball effectively. But
he was in
much
of the same
one thing we know about running
Luck was.
quarterbacks is that you cannot rely on that forever. Guys like McNabb came into the league and they could run, but it doesn't hold up.
Exactly why Andrew Luck.
Yeah, but you need to. But
what the issue I take with what Jack is saying over here is that Russell Wilson is in no way a running quarterback. He is mobile.
That's false.
He is mobile.
You can't say he's
mobile. Stop. Let me finish. I have a stat here that is going to say that he may be a running quarterback. His 489 rushing yards this year are good for 22nd by a quarterback all time.
That's
and you take into account that Michael Vick and Randall Cunningham combined for 8 spots ahead of him. That means he's in his first year running the ball. He's had one of the top. He's one of the top 15 rushing quarterbacks ever.
Do you know which week they even incorporated the read option?
No, I don't.
14.
That's fine.
Was the first
he's
snap
still but Michael Vick never ran in there.
He is not a running quarterback. The fact that he has the capability to run does not make him a running quarterback. This guy tied Manning's rookie record.
He relies on it.
No, he relies on it to extend plays. And
he relies on it to go downfield.
In the second half of that Atlanta game, the play that probably was the signature play of the afternoon, he was sacked, and everybody in the crowd is going, "Why, you can't take that sack." He runs out of it. He extends the play. He finds Lynch coming back to him, and he gets 30 yards on it.
That was a great play. Are we going to talk about one half of football? Are we going to base all of this on one half?
We're going to talk about one half of football, one game of football.
The kind of player he is. He is not a running quarterback, and there isn't a single player in the
So you
Seattle
think he's a better passer than Andrew Luck?
I do not necessarily believe that he's a better raw passer than Andrew Luck, but I think he is more versatile, certainly. If he brings that to the table, then fine. But that is not. That is not what he relies on, and he's been unbelievably efficient. So I think it's really unfair.
Okay, but the efficiency, you can talk about the interceptions, but if we really want to go with efficient, we're going to go with RG3 because Luck's averaging about 35 pass attempts before he gets picked off. Russell Wilson's at 39, and RG3's at 78. So, I mean, Russell Wilson and Andrew Luck, in terms of efficiency, really aren't that far off if you're talking about picks.
Yeah, yes and no. It's game management. It's doing things. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Wilson has the better arm or that he's going to throw more touchdown passes in his career than Andrew Luck or any of those things. But I will tell you, when you see that a guy's got that and he's got that intangible and he can do in the playoffs what he did last week, it's really hard to bet against him. And we did not see that from Andrew Luck, and we have not seen him win championships.
With the team,
hey, Jack.
It's unbelievable.
I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree.
And
luckily enough,
but we're going to disagree.
Luckily enough, we will get to see this play out in the years to come, and let it be marked down that Jack and I have Andrew Luck.
I'm fine being on record with Russell Wilson.
And no one has RG3. So
primarily because of the injury.
So maybe Jack might switch over to RG3 in future years. Maybe we'll have to revisit this each year.
We will, but
all right. Now on to our next topic, which has been hot in recent days, and it is the Lance Armstrong story.
Oh, brother.
So recently, within the last couple hours, the Oprah interview, the first installment of that, is just now finishing up. Lance Armstrong admitted to doping. He came out and said it. So, Jack, what's your take on that, having a unique perspective there?
Well, I'm from Austin, so I have certainly Lance has been a big part of my childhood. He's like arguably the most famous guy in Austin. I would always wake up early, watch him on TV. There'd be spray paint on the ground saying "Ride Lance, ride," and really everyone got behind him. But it was always known that he was a bit of a jerk and was never friendly to people. Not that is too suggestive of doping. But now that this comes out, I think that no one's really surprised. I think that he was a bully, and I just don't.
Well, he said as much tonight.
He admitted himself that he was a bully.
There's not much to say other than it's a sad story. I believed in him once, but no longer do.
I'm sure Jake's going to make the same point in a minute. That to me, the offense here isn't as much about the doping because it was so rampant. And he was the 8th ranked cyclist in the world before he even got cancer. And he was 25 years old. So you can kind of think that
he admitted he was doping before he got cancer.
Yeah, he was. But
I mean, he also said that he absolutely did not dope in 2009 or 2010, and he got third in 2009.
Well, I'm not sure how this stuff works, but it might have.
He's an extraordinary athlete.
Well,
all doping.
We'll have to take him at his word.
Was the point I was?
I don't know if we can trust it, but.
And it's disappointing. I mean, 7 straight Tour de France, 2002 Sportsman of the Year. I mean, I don't know if you remember when we were kids, but the biggest brand in sports outside of Air Jordan had to be those little yellow Livestrong bands. I mean, it was an absolute style statement. It was a philanthropic statement. It was a must-have. Lance Armstrong was a brand, and so it was important for him as the ambassador for cycling to kind of set a better example. And I don't want to jump on his back too hard because it may have been a necessary part of competition, but when you are the face of a sport the way a Tiger Woods is, then you're under a spotlight that not everybody else is. And if anybody was going to get kind of some preferential treatment if he'd been forthcoming initially about his doping, it was a guy who came back from cancer, and he never sought that.
Well, and another issue that I have is that that Lance lied, and that's fine, and doping itself is the issue, and he admitted to that, but he did really make life tough for people because when they called him out on it, he attacked them and called them liars and really went after them hard in the courts. And he was always touting how he had never lost a legal battle. And now going back and thinking about the fact that they were correct and he should have lost those legal battles. It's tough for those people, and while like you're like, oh, doping, like it was bad in cycling, he actually went after and attacked some people.
Yeah, that's what leads me to question why. I mean, why he decides to stop. You admit it now. To me, his interview, he seemed almost as if he didn't care what people think about him anymore. I don't know what you guys thought, but that's how it seemed to me.
Perception.
But the other like thing to think about is all the good Lance Armstrong has done. And I'm not saying it's because he's a good guy, but his charity Livestrong has raised millions of dollars for cancer research.
Yep.
It's done great things, and I mean that's not. I'm doubting at this point that he did it for that. He probably just did it for his own publicity. But I mean that's one thing to consider when you think about Lance Armstrong's legacy.
It's just the disappointing part of all these findings. The most disappointing part to me is that he used, possessed, distributed the full deal. I mean, he's the face of the sport, but he's also kind of perpetrating and keeping alive its ugliest face. So there's not a lot to say here on this today other than that the truth always finds you. And it's a little bit sad that we're talking about the downfall of another athlete that was so inspiring and so influential for so many.
Well, speaking of the truth coming out,
that was where I was going. Yeah.
Speaking of the truth coming out and the downfall or supposed downfall of an athlete, there has been in recent days largely overshadowing the Lance Armstrong story, the hoax of Manti Te'o. Being Notre Dame students, we definitely had a front row view of Manti during this miraculous season, and we also probably know more than most about this story. So, Buck, would you like to start and kind of talk to us about what you feel about this situation and how it affects the students here at the university who revered him so much?
I don't want to make any accusations until I hear Manti speak for himself.
Which we are attentively awaiting.
Eagerly awaiting. But at this point, you got to think that he's either all-time conniving or all-time gullible with little in between.
Yeah.
It's a sad thing, but if you are the star football player at a university and you have a 2-year online relationship in which you never Skype, you never get a picture that seems personal, you never. I mean,
it's not for sure that
you're stood up.
You're stood up. Perpetrators could have put someone
but
else
he,
to Skype.
but they,
come on,
she had
we would have known about that.
We do, because she had a face on the internet, a specific face that was being dragged from Facebook pictures.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't think.
But the woman wasn't in on it.
No, I know. I don't
so
think
they couldn't have Skyped.
I don't think that they Skyped.
Oh.
Jack.
I think there are two choices here. One is that Manti created this entire fake girlfriend myth in order to promote himself, and the other is that this hoax was perpetrated upon him, but he also told white lies along the way for whatever reason so that it wouldn't be as embarrassing for himself or because he was enjoying the fame that he got out of it. But I think it's pretty clear that Manti wasn't 100% truthful and is not 100% innocent.
Yeah, he 100%, to repeat, he told lies and he exacerbated the situation. And like we said, we're going to wait for some more things to come out before we make further statements. But I think if you continue listening, we'll be able to provide some unique insight in the future with some information that we do have, just not choosing to release at the current time.
Check back.
Yeah, for real. Check back. We will. We have some good stuff. Okay, so now to our last story of the day, an NBA story, and it's the Miami Heat.
Good old basketball.
Good old NBA.
A little more my realm.
Buck and I both mentioned at the top of the telecast that we kind of have. Well, we have our respective teams, the Pistons and the Suns, who are abysmal at the current moment. we have kind of taken a liking to the Heat. Something you have to do with the NBA structure the way it is currently. You got to pick some of those teams that actually have a shot to.
Well, shout out to my Nuggets as well. I forgot to say that at the top of the telecast. But,
Yeah, do you want to explain how you kind of pick a team at the start of each year besides your hometown boys? To
LeBron's my man. First of all, the Pistons come before anybody, and took a nice fat loss in London today, but that's beside the point. And LeBron's my man, so I always support him. But at the start of each season, I choose a team that I think kind of is flying under the radar and might have a shot. Last year, that was the Timberwolves, and injuries and other circumstances sort of prevented that from panning out, and are again this year, unfortunately. But this year, that was the Denver Nuggets. So that was the nature of that little sidetrack.
The Heat have been struggling recently, but last night LeBron scored 10,000 points, or 20,000 points, excuse me, and he got his 5,000 assist. And the Heat rolled to an easy win over the Golden State Warriors. And amid that easy win, there have been some struggles recently, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we think is going to happen down the line come playoff time with some problems with the Heat. What do you feel about that? How do you feel about that?
I'd probably just like to throw a few numbers. That's all right.
Hey, numbers are always good.
2011-2012, the Heat finished 20th in the league with 20 assists per game. This year, that's up to 11th with 22.4 assists. Last year, the Heat were 7th in the league with 98.5 points per game. This year, they're up to 6th, but that's 102.1 points per game. Now you go to the other side. Clearly, the offense is meshed, but you go to the other side of things where there are numbers that are down. You got the Heat down from 3rd in steals to 11th in steals, 9th in blocks to 14th in blocks, 21st in rebounds, which obviously wasn't stellar during their champion season, to the cellar, 29th in rebounds. The bottom line for me here is rebounding, steals, blocks, it's effort. And when you're not seeing anybody in the rearview mirror, I mean, keep in mind, the Heat still do have the best record in the Eastern Conference. When you're not seeing anyone in the rearview mirror, and you don't fear anyone, you're not going to get up every night. This team is 16-3 at home. They're 9-9 on the road. They're 11-7 against their own conference. 14-5 against the much more strong Western Conference. And frankly, I don't think they see anybody behind them that poses much of a threat. The Knicks are 5-5 in their last 10 games, the same way the Heat are, and that's the closest on their tail. All that said, rebounding is the Achilles heel, and if you want Greg Oden more than he wants you, you obviously have a problem. Right? But I don't know what your guys' perspective is on that, but I'm not worried.
I'm not worried either. I have a similar perspective there. I guess I just wanted to bring this to light. LeBron James, he is starting to get to some significant career numbers, and one of the most significant, but I think people don't always talk about, is his ability to assist. And I was looking at some of the numbers, and if he continues along his current rate of 6.9 assists a game for his career, which has been up in recent years, and he plays about as many games as John Stockton did, who's at the leader of the all-time NBA assist list, and plays about 10 more years, which is about what he needs to pass Kareem for the all-time scoring title, then he would end up 3rd all-time on the NBA assist list, which is very impressive considering that he's a small forward, and never in like the top 3 in assists in the NBA. And so I think that's a career number that's overlooked. And it's of great significance.
Crazy thing is he could lead the league in assists any year that he wanted to. Same way Chamberlain said that one year and went out and did it. Any year that LeBron James decided he wanted to lead the National Basketball Association in assists, he would do so. Same goes for points. He's a special player, equal parts Jordan and Magic, and frankly, the league doesn't know what it has yet. See in the next few years.
So speaking of what the league doesn't know, is the league didn't know about Dwayne Wade to start the season. How is he feeling? How is his knee doing? And Evan and I Buck, happen to have some conflicting feelings about that situation. I thought Dwayne Wade was going to be fine, and that at some point in the year he was going to score 40 points. Evan did not, and so we have a little bet going. Originally, it had been $5, but Jack had the lovely idea to make it to be something on air. We haven't thought about that yet, but we would like to have any viewer or listener responses to what the loser should have to do.
So what Jake should have to do is more we're getting along here. 40 points in a game this season, about halfway through. I'm looking good at this point, I would say. Doing all right.
Came close. 34.
He has come close. And I admit that Dwayne Wade has come back stronger from knee surgery than I anticipated. He's had a lot of those over his career, but his splits are down to 19.9 points, 4.4 assists, 4.7 rebounds. So numbers are down. Early in the year, he didn't look like he had the same spring. He's kind of
getting that back.
Yeah, I admit he's come back with more athleticism than I really thought he would. But a lot of people have him as a top 10 player in the league right now, and that's just not something I agree with. It's probably a debate for another day. But
well, my 2 cents on this whole thing is I'm not the hugest NBA fan in the world, as I hope I'll get the chance to explain to you later. But I think that I would be shocked if the Heat were not in the NBA Finals. And I won't get into my reasons for my distaste for the NBA right now, but I just think that the Heat are clearly going to be there. Dwayne Wade, the team will be ready. They'll put in the effort on defense when it matters, and it doesn't matter right now. So.
Well, with that, we are leaving you for today. We'll have some NFL weekend picks up later. It will actually be a video, so you'll get to see your lovely hosts. And we'd like to encourage you to follow our Twitter handle at YupSports. And until next time, that's Yup.